So today we're going to be taking a look at what is the first 30th anniversary Star Wars action figure I am reviewing on this channel, and that is Darth Revan. This is definitely one of my favorite action figures I have in my collection. I've had this since March, April of 2008 is when I got this. It was a highly sought after action figure at the time. If you know anything about Darth Revan, one of the most famous expanded universe Star Wars characters of all time. So a couple interesting stories about this. This was actually the very first action figure I ever bid on eBay, and I won it by, it was a very small margin, maybe a couple pennies even. And at the time, I think it may have been $20, $25 in that range. And of course, if you follow Darth Revan today, you would know that he's a very expensive action figure, and if you found one for $20, it would be a really good deal. But prior to that, I actually saw both Revan and Malak brand new at Kohl's. Kohl's was one of those hidden gem stores actually for Star Wars action figures between about 2006 and 2011 or so. You could go to Kohl's most times and find the really rare action figures, and Revan and Malak happened to be, I saw one of each at the time, and it was on Christmas Eve of 2007, I recall. And of course, being Christmas Eve, it's like, I'll hold off on those, but it's not like you're in, at the time I was a kid, so it's like, you know, it's not really something you plan for. We just happened to be at Kohl's that day, and I happened to see him. I was like, oh, can you believe that? But I thought that was the coolest thing in the world, and that's definitely an action figure story that's always really stuck out to me. If I ever had to make a video about like a top 5 or top 10 most interesting acquisitions that I've made in my collection, Revan here would be one of those action figures. So as I said, he was a 30th anniversary action figure from 2007. Probably one of the more iconic ones of that line at the time. When people talk about the 30th anniversary collection, Revan and Malak are definitely two that pop up most of the time. It was a very groundbreaking releases at the time. We had gotten expanded universe characters from time before, but it was very selective, and it was kind of no-brainers in a way. But to get one from something at the time that was a little more obscure, like a video game, Knights of the Old Republic, that seemed to be a pretty big deal. And it's a very nice action figure. Not entirely accurate to Darth Revan. The Black Series one, I would say, is definitely closer, which I'll show you a comparison between the two here in a little bit. But I think it's really good for what it is, and there is some backstory that I'll share with you here in a little bit as to how they went about developing this Revan and why he looks the way he does. But first, I unfortunately do not have the package here to show you anymore. I wish I still did have my packaging for this, but unfortunately at the time I didn't keep any of them. But what I can show you is I do have, if you know anything about the 30th anniversary collection, you would know that each action figure came with a special collector's coin at the time, which I do have here to show you right now. So there's Darth Revan's coin, and I'll show you more this coin album here in the future as well in a separate video. Of course, you've probably seen this before in my tour videos. Very nice thing to have in a collection. But as I was showing, there's Darth Revan there. Very nice coin. I'm not going to pop this out because it can be kind of tricky sometimes, and sometimes it can wear on the edges there where the coin sits. And on the back, it just says Expanding Universe, and that's it. It says Darth Revan, 30th, figure number 34, and Sith Lord. Very nice image of Revan there. Of course, there's Malak beside him there, which I'll show him next. I do have a lot of holes in this still, but I got a good chunk of these filled in. But sometimes, if you're missing some of the coins for your collection, you can't get on eBay, and people do sell those individually. And I'm sure Darth Revan's coin is highly sought after. I've never really looked at the price for those, but I'm just taking a guess on that. But anyways, for the action figure itself, like I say, he's not entirely accurate to how Revan looks in the game. In fact, I'll just show you now, compared to the Black Series action figure. can see the helmet is definitely different. This definitely looks like Revan's mask. And interesting story about this mask. This is actually based off the Sith mask that you can wear in the video game. And of course the robes are a little bit different as well. And I'll touch on this Black Series Revan in a separate video as well. It deserves its own. So as I said, there's an interesting story about this Revan. And you can, of course, pop his hood off, and his cape and his hood are just one accessory. But there's an image out there, and if you've played the video game before, you know that you can pick different portraits. And one of the portraits that you can play as is the Asian appearance, where it has the mustache, the goatee, and the bald head. That's actually what this particular Revan is based off of. There's an image of that where he's wearing the Sith mask, and of course he has the bald head, and it's on Manon. So that's the image that Hasbro used to base this Revan action figure off of. Pretty interesting story. Not too many people know about it, but I've read about that one years ago, and it seems to add up and make sense to me. As we know, most people, when they think of Revan, they don't really think of him as bald. He does have some nice detailing in his robes there. And I'll just put this back on. And it fits pretty good. But he's all plastic. He's very cumbersome, and he has a large footprint. And he has a very awkward stance too. As you can see, he kind of leans forward a little bit. And that's because of his articulation and just the build of how his legs are. So in terms of the articulation, he does have a ball joint in the neck there, as you saw. And of course, you can't really, you can move it around a little bit with his hood on, but you probably have to take it off and adjust it if you wanted to do that. And he does look down a little bit because of the way his hood is molded to fit with his head. Hinge at the shoulders there, hinged elbows. Doesn't go quite 90 degrees. That's about the most you can get it. Then he has a swivel wrist. Technically he has a swivel waist, but because the way they did this harness here for him, it's all molded as one piece, so you can't swivel his waist at all. And he has swivel hips, and that's it. Nothing in the knees or ankles, unfortunately. Would have benefited quite a bit from. Like I said, he stands a little bit of a lean, so you might have to finesse with him a little bit, and he definitely needs a stand, otherwise he's prone to fall over quite a bit. So in terms of accessories, other than the collector's coin that I showed you, he does come with 2 lightsabers, which technically, this is probably Darth Malik's lightsaber actually, or at least this is the lightsaber that comes with Malik. I'm not sure if it's accurate to the lightsaber Malik actually has in the game or not. And same with Revan's lightsaber here. I'm not sure if that hilt is accurate to what he really had. He has a very nice red blade, and the hilt itself is unique. I have never really seen this with any other action figures before. And it looks really nice. For the unignited hilt here, though, there's no peg or anything that you can put on his belt, unfortunately. So you can just hold it like that. And unlike the Black Series version, he does not have a purple lightsaber with him as well. I don't think Revan really became associated with 2 lightsabers like that until years later. At the time, I think most people just assumed he just had the one hilt lights or the one-bladed lightsaber, and that's it. And just to show you, there are a little bit of details. As you can see, like I said, he is kind of cumbersome. He has a lot of plastic robes on him, so it restricts his mobility. And as you can see by his legs there, he does have a very awkward stance. Not sure why they made it like that. So that's why he has a little bit of a lean to him. A little bit of details on his robes there, kind of like you walk through a puddle or something. But other than that, that's really all there is to say about Darth Revan. I'll show you a quick comparison here. That's how he looks with my custom Revan as how he appears in the game, and also with Basila. If you've played the game before, you know that they develop a relationship with one another, and they all look really nice together. So would I recommend Revan for your collection? I definitely would. Like I say, he's probably one of the most sought after Star Wars action figures of all time at this point. He was supposed to be released in the vintage collection, this exact Revan, but there was a lot of fan backlash for it at the time. This was around 2018. And then after Hasbro revealed it, they ended up retracting it. And to this date, it's still in limbo if that's going to get released or not. I have heard before that allegedly when Hasbro transitioned over from, what was it, Steve Evans to Patrick Schneider, who's in charge of the marketing team now, that somehow got overlooked and forgotten about. I don't know if that story is really true or not. It might be just an excuse. But hopefully, I would assume with the KOTOR remake, somewhere in the works that we might get a TBC Revan eventually, maybe part of the Gaming Greats line. Hopefully it's just a scaled down Black Series action figure that they actually went back to the drawing board, realized fans want an all new Revan. But even if that is going to be the case, I would still recommend this Revan for your collection. It's a nice action figure, it was really good at the time. I think it still holds up really nicely today. It looks great. Again, it's extremely expensive. I've seen this go way up in the hundreds before if you get one brand new. If you get one loose, I have seen it maybe missing a couple accessories before in like the $50 range. But if you get one complete and in good condition, you might be able to get one for the $70, $80 range if you're lucky. But even at prices like that, again, it's Darth Revan. He's one of the most iconic Star Wars characters out there, so I would highly recommend him for your collection. But anyways, that concludes this review. I hope you enjoyed it, found it informative. Stay tuned for more reviews in the future. There will be plenty more to come. And if you haven't already, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Greatly appreciate the support. And check out the Instagram link in the description as well. There will be more posts on that pretty soon. And thanks for watching.